Hey guys and girls, Bored Now back with you. So I'm halfway through Dexter New Blood now, or this season of it anyway. So this is my thoughts on episode 5, and the episode is called Runaway. And I tell you what, you always wondered if there was going to be, cameos from the original series worked in. Well, here we go. Angel Batista, the man himself, appears in this episode. And it just leads to so many contrivances. This is like the worst episode just for all these little coincidences stacked up. Because at first I thought, well, it's just going to be a random appearance to him and they're nodding to the old show and there's a bit of fan service. Just a little hint, but really these writers can't do anything by halves. They just have to go full blown over the top. So many coincidences, so many contrivances, and they just smack you round the face with it because what happens, and I'll start with this storyline first of all because there's just too many coincidences in it, but Molly and Angela decide to go on a road trip because they're all friendly now. They've obviously decided to work together on this investigation involving Matt and his disappearance. So they get wind of the hotel he's staying at, and they decide to go there together to check and see if he's still there, what's going on, because they've got information that he's staying there or has been staying there. And first of all, there is quite a nice scene when they get there, which is when Angela uses her sort of muscle and shows the clerk her badge and says, because the clerk sort of claims that Matt checked out like the day before, and Angela says, well, I would like to see the footage, the surveillance footage, just to clear it up that he was even here. And that's when the clerk tries to, does his best to not give her it, and that's when she uses her muscle, and Molly's quite impressed with that. So that's quite a nice scene. But the other thing I should say about this is, because he says, well, I'll have the footage for you tomorrow. Now, the other thing about this plot is that there just happened to be a police convention at this hotel. I mean, I'm not quite sure what the police are doing, holding of conventions, but whatever. It's some sort of they're hosting talks, and that's your first big coincidence right there. Then there just happens to be a police conference at the same hotel where Matt was supposedly staying. So it gives them two reasons to be there, because both Angela and Molly attend this convention, and wouldn't you know, it's the convention where Angel Batista is talking. Now, again, I don't have that many problems with this. It's obviously it's a big coincidence because he's involved in Florida. We're assuming he's still working with the police down there, and he somehow ends up at this convention in New York. But I can kind of swing that. Then there may be calls for a veteran cop like him to talk at this thing. But if it was just a little cameo and a little wink to the Dexter fans, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But as I said, man, do they go way too far, because in the next scene he's talking about the Bay Harbor butcher case, and he indirectly references Dexter because he talks about, there was this guy who was, he's talking about Dexter's whole MO is what I'm saying. So even though he doesn't know that it's Dexter, he's actually talking about Dexter because, of course, in the original series, spoiler, Angel and most of the people working at the station never found out about Dexter's true identity and what he was up to. But then this plot really drives me nuts. And I will say it's fun seeing Angel again. I quite like the actor, I quite like the character, but the lengths they go to with this plot just drives me nuts, to the point where I was starting to wonder if they would either contrive it so that you might actually get a reunion with Angel and Dexter. Of course they won't go that far, because Angel thinks Dexter's dead, because that's the whole end of the original series. But anyway, he starts talking to Angela, and contrivance once again, but the Trinity case comes up, and there's just so many things that Angel conveniently drops in and mentions. So he mentions about Deborah Morgan, about how she worked that case, because they're having this conversation about the case which Angela is working, and Angela's like, well, do you have her contact details? Could I talk to her? And that obviously Angel says no. Tragically, she died. It was really tragic. So did her brother. And obviously, when it says Deborah Morgan, that doesn't ring any bells. But then he has to mention Harrison, that Dexter as a cute kid, and this is like the really in your face, over the top moment that you're just screaming at the front row about, because Angel conveniently struggles to remember Harrison's name, and he's having a think about it. And cute kid, what was his name? And he starts walking away, and then he turns back around. Oh, Harrison. And we're all screaming it at the TV. It is so bad, so over the top. So this now leads us to, I think, the focus of Angela's plot for the rest of the season, is that she's now going to be suspicious of Dexter and start investigating him. And boy, have we been down this path so many times with this show. And there's even more cause for suspicion, because later on, when Angela gets back, Audrey has, she's back, and there's been a whole thing at a party with Harrison, and Harrison, who gets high in this episode, relays to Audrey that Dexter is using a fake name. And I'm not sure if Audrey really buys that, because Harrison's high and hyper at the time, but she relays this information to Angela later, and Angela now is looking into Dexter, and that's how the episode ends, with her doing like an internet search. So that's obviously going to be the focus of a lot of Angela's plot. By the way, when Molly and Angela checked like the security footage, it turns out it's a different guy. So it looks as though someone stole Matt's credit card and has been staying at the hotel. It's a little convenient he checked out the day before, but hey, nothing compared with some of the other stuff in this show. And Angela's like, well, why would Kurt lie? Well, why indeed. Speaking of Kurt, it was confirmed in the last episode pretty much that he's the psychopath kidnapping these girls. There's this girl, Chloe, from out of town, who he like takes in and takes her to the cabin, offers her a place to stay. And I guess because it's a Showtime show and they're trying to push the boundaries and be edgy, there's sort of weird stuff going on there where she tries certain things to like convince him to let her go, like sort of taking her top off and being quite sort of flirty, and which he doesn't go for. He's watching her on like his laptop, and she sort of calls his bluff at one point and actually like almost outsmarts him. Like she's waiting with a knife when he does the whole thing where he's, says you're free to go, and then he plans to just shoot her, and he obviously gets off on treating them like prey and sort of doing it like a little game. And she tries to turn the tables, and he, again, it's one of these over the top Showtime style kills which just feels really cartoony, but he sort of blows off. I mean, not exactly completely blows off her face, but like her eye and stuff, and then he gets all unhinged. And I was saying, I like the actor, I like Clancy Brown, but again, this scene was very over the top and cartoony, and he gets unhinged because, you know, she defied his plans almost. It's like, you know, he starts squeaking and saying things like, well, why didn't you play the game? Or something like that. I can't remember, but it's a line to that effect. So it's just one of these things where it's sort of hinting at just what a psychopath he is. Now, I'm quite intrigued by this plot. As I said, I do like Clancy Brown. I'm not sure exactly where it's going, and I'm not sure exactly why they revealed that he's, you know, the psychopath, the kidnapper this early. I mean, it just seems like something where they could have kept that in their back pocket for a bit longer, but okay, I guess maybe there's more reveals to go with him, or you would hope, otherwise it seems like a bit of a pointless plot. We still don't know why he lied about Matt being alive. That hasn't been made clear yet, but I guess what it looks like by the end of the episode is that he's sort of honing his focus on Harrison, and maybe he has some sort of a grudge with Dexter because Harrison, who goes to this party, they're treating him all like a hero because of the last episode, even the bullies, and that's when he just happens to get high on ecstasy, which is being handed out. And boy, again, I have to wonder if these writers really know modern kids, because do kids still take ecstasy now? I mean, a lot of this doesn't ring true. I mean, I don't really buy that Audrey would still be hanging about with these bozos. She seems on the level and like way too smart, but I guess she has to be there to like support Harrison, and that's when he gets high. And the actor playing Harrison is really wooden. I think he's one of the weakest actors in this new series, and he's so wooden he can't even play high, you know, convincingly. And it's just a really clunky sort of scene that looks so outdated. It looks like something from like a TV show or a movie from like 20-30 years ago with all this shaky cam business. It just looks really phony. It doesn't really look that convincing as like someone getting high. And yeah, a lot of the teenage stuff in this show and the stuff with Harrison has just left me really bored. But obviously he almost ODs, and there's also this stuff with Logan in this episode, who's like the deputy cop who's obviously left to like mind the fort because Angela's out of town, and because they sort of do this thing with Dexter, I guess because they sort of want him to in some ways return to his old ways and have a reaction to what's happening with Harrison, where he gets it in his own head then, because this kid was like selling ecstasy, this drug dealer, and it almost led to my son being killed, then I'm gonna get revenge. It's like he's sort of pushing the code to this where it sort of justifies killing him, even though it doesn't fit the exact sort of code. And you get a very contrived plot where he sort of tracks him down, but then he has to like do a cover where he's like just mad and kicking him because Logan. That's the thing, Logan keeps showing up so many places out of the blue, which is just convenient for the plot in this episode. And in the end, Dexter like captures him, but then wouldn't you know it, Logan comes in with a whole team. I'm not sure why they didn't just hold this drug dealer, I think Miles is his name, when they had the chance earlier, but they let him go because of the lack of evidence, I guess, not enough. But I'm not sure why then they come bursting into his house later, and that sort of puts a spanner in Dexter's work, but then he decides to compromise and sort of frame. Not exactly frame him, because he did sell the drugs, but he just sort of sets him up with the drugs, and he's on the table. So he doesn't go through with killing him because the cops show up, but he does, in a way, the next best thing, which is set him up with the drugs so that he will take the fall now. But it's kind of not the point. It's the fact that he was gonna kill him anyway, and that doesn't seem to totally fit with the code. But whatever. I guess they just felt we needed some more Dexter style moments to satisfy the fans. So that's episode 5, Runaway. It was a bit poor, a bit naff really on the whole, after a couple of stronger episodes. But what did you guys think? Have you been enjoying the new shows? What new show? What storylines have you been into? What storylines haven't done much to you? What direction do you think we're going with Dexter, Harrison, Kurt, and all the rest? Let me know. Oh, because that's the other thing, is Kurt befriends Harrison later in the episode. He actually buys him a meal, and so it looks as though that's the direction they're going in, that he's going to target Harrison. So maybe he's got some sort of grudge with Dexter. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's Dexter New Blood for the week. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe as always, and I'll see you guys soon.